Football is more than just a game. It's about passion, community, and a deep-rooted history that spans generations. And for over 60 years, Hanover Football Club has been at the heart of Portadown, shaping players, creating memories, and building a legacy that stands the test of time. From humble beginnings to hard-fought victories, from local rivalries to moments of triumph, Hanover's story is one of resilience, commitment, and pride. This is more than just a football club. It's a family, a tradition, and a symbol of what the beautiful game means to so many. In this special series, we're taking you on a journey through time, exploring the club's founding years, the legends who wore the blue and white, the challenges overcome, and the bright future ahead. Through interviews, archives, and first-hand accounts, we'll uncover the story of Hanover FC like never told before. This is the history of Hanover Football Club. This is our story. So we're going to begin this part of the story at the beginning of the 1992 season. So one of the first things that happened in that season was you breaking your leg grass in a match against Bessbrook. So can you tell me about that?
It happened in a midweek match up at Bessbrook on a cold and rainy night. So that it was a very unfortunate, it was a complete accident. I had scored early on in the match to put us 1-0 up. A ball came down the line on our left-hand side. Me and the centre-half, we both went in for a tackle when the ball was bouncing. I tried to knock the ball on down the line, and I heard this crack, and it just went through my mind. I says, this is going to be painful for somebody. I didn't really realise it was myself. And when I put my left leg down, it just collapsed on the side of the pitch. In those days, it was the 60-minute rule. It meant if the match was abandoned after 60 minutes, then the result stood. But on that night, this was way before the mobile phones and everything. They had to go to the clubhouse, which was beside the ground, and make a phone call to get the ambulance down. There was no stretchers in them days. It was just everybody, just put you to the side of the line. And I remember it well. I think I stayed there for about half an hour while the match was going on, and taking the match in, waiting on the ambulance. When the ambulance did come, it took about 15 minutes to get me onto the ambulance. They brought me to Daisy Hill Hospital up in Uri. When the match was over, a couple of the players along with Guffer, they came up visiting me, just to see how I was. The first thing was always only on my mind was, how did the match finish? And the boys told me it was abandoned because it was getting too dark to see. But luckily enough for us, the result stood and we got the points for the match. But one of the talking points of the match at that time is the following day, the young fella who was involved in the incident, he came up to visit me, and he brought me flowers and sweets up, as you did in those days. And he was really upset because I had broken my leg. But I tried to tell him it was a complete accident, and he had no fault and no cause in it. Hopefully that would alleviate his pain, knowing his thinking about it. But a few months later, when I was out of hospital, I got talking to a couple of Bessbrook ones, and they told me the young fella, he never kicked the ball after that again. I don't know why it was. Maybe it was just a fear, inflicting an injury on another player, or he had just taken the blame on his own shoulders. But to this day, I always thought it was just a complete accident. I was the best about it. Just carried on.
So whenever you were recovering from your broken leg, did you take up a different role then? Were you still the manager at this time, and did you still go to the games?
I was still going to the games like I say, I was hobbling most of the games, and I was doing the line, managing. But I was really down to get back into football because I've always missed it, so I have. And after about 6 months, the break wasn't healing, and I had to go back to the hospital to get rechecked again just to see what the problem was. And I found out I would have to go through a bone graft, because it wasn't mending properly. So that prolonged, the injury layoff. And after the operation, which was done up in Daisy Hill Hospital, it was a success. And I was glad just to get back even into light training to build my strength up again, and just took it from there.
So, Grass, breaking your leg at almost 40 years of age, that would probably signal the end of most footballers' careers, but you probably played for another 20 years after that. So what was it that gave you such a desire to get back from injury and got you playing for such a long time after that?
I spoke to the doctor the night I did break the leg, and I was asked him what the time scale would be, and he says probably minimum 6 months. I thought nothing of it, but once I found out it was going to be a bone graft had to be performed because it wasn't healing, then the timeline was extended. But retirement never came into my mind. Like I said, I've enjoyed football all my life since I was an early age, since probably just kicking a ball around the back streets of Edenderry. There had never entered my mind that I would retire. A broken leg, I've thought nothing of it. But fortunate enough, I've never smoked or drunk an awful lot, and like I said, that was the best about it. I've always kept myself fit, and I just decided I would just play on until there was an embarrassment to the team or embarrassment to myself. And like I said, luckily enough, the heart, the lungs and the legs have carried me through, and my mindset's always to just keep on playing until I can't play no more.
Gator, can you tell us about your memories of sort of playing back in that year, the early 90s?
Yeah, well, it was sort of up and down with Hanover. Like, we suffered some heavy defeats and we had some good wins, but we always battled well. It was a team of battlers. We just gave everything. For probably the club and for grass, we all got on well together and just worked our socks off for each other. There was a lot of good characters in the team, a lot of arguments, a lot of fighting. Greeno was probably in the middle of everything. Grass would have started in Greeno, and Greeno would have been on grass. Now, it was good. I can't, if you ask me to remember my goals that day, I can't remember my goals. I can't even remember the 90s. But it was enjoyable and it was fun.
So who would have been some of the standout players then from back then in the early 90s that you can remember, Gator?
Standout players in the early 90s would probably be Grass, before he got his leg broke. Greeno was a good finisher. He very cool. John Milligan, great centre half. Then at that time, the likes of the young fellas came in, like Noel Richardson and Ian Love. Jeff McCann came in at that time too, didn't he?
Yeah.
A wee bit maybe.
And Patsy Porter
and Torque. There was never anything bad, but on the pitch, Boy Greeno could start around an empty house, especially with you.
Yeah, which I loved.
Who else did he always have a go at?
Well, mostly the referees. Most of the games that the decision didn't go his way, but
He was a good player.
His goals, some of his goals, but his work rate. If Greeno had a better work rate, he'd have probably played in the Irish League with no problem.
If he had my work rate and had his skill, I would have been some player.
I would have had some team.
Yeah.
Would have won more trophies.
Where did you play, Gator? Or, like what your strength about?
I played everywhere. That's the truth. Apart from, maybe played nets for the seconds a few times. Yeah. But I was just a worker. Like, I never hadn't great skill and up and down, but I worked my socks off. Like.
In those days, it wasn't about your skill. I think it was more work rate. It wasn't no fancy football that you see nowadays. The work rate was probably one of the key issues. Like I said, we were fortunate since my time, since coming to Hanover, that we've always had good goal scorers. That's when I first started until the present day. But Greeno was up there, No, everybody could tell you stories about Grano. Like I said, there used to be matches, he'd be standing, no doing nothing, no shouting at everybody on the pitch. And next minute he'd score and just walk down to the halfway line as if nothing had happened. But that's the man.
He's actually meant to have been here a couple of times for these video sessions and he hasn't turned up, so that probably tells you a lot about him too.
I think it's the modesty in him. So there's no, he doesn't like to boast. He keeps telling me there's a whole lot of paper cuttings, but his days in the Irish League, scoring against Linfield in his debut against David Jeffrey. So it'll be interesting to ask David, does he remember Grano when their 60th anniversary comes up in the Sego?
So, Grass, you had mentioned there are players that going on to play at a higher level, or maybe players that played at a higher level and ended up coming to us. So, one of those players that signed in 1995 was Poe Curran. He had played for the like of Banbridge Town, Coke, Loughgall, Armagh City. What's your memories of playing with Poe and what was he like as a player?
Well, Poe, most of my time when Poe was there was a left back, and like I said, I think that was his favourite position. When he came to us, like I say, he had a great reputation, being strong, good in the air, sweet left foot, that was able to get up and down. But watching him, like I say, his commitment, like I say, his work rate, like I say, is outstanding. So he was probably one of the best left backs that has played for Hanover. Some of his tackles, that had probably been X-rated. But players like that there, they wouldn't get playing now. All the new rules and the tackling. But like I say, his commitment was 100% every game. And like I say, if you weren't putting it in beside him, he'd have let you know it. He always spoke his mind. He was an honest player. The best about it, he could revert to the centre half. But like I say, I would say his best position was the left back position.
So Poe signing for us in 1995 was something significant. Something also very significant that happened in 1995 was the passing of Guffer Vanard. So Grass, how did that affect, the players and you personally, and also how did it affect the club? Like, did somebody have to pick up more slack on the jobs that Guffer done, or what was the story?
It was a tragedy for me, so it was, because I remember it well. I was in bed on a Friday night, I think the phone went after midnight, so that it was Stephanie Corn. Stephanie used to work with Guffer in the North Wales Youth Club, and she was crying, and she broke the news that Guffer had passed away. And like I said, it just hit me, just like a hammer blow. I just couldn't believe it. Me and Guffer had a great relationship, through Hanover, in a personal lives. Like I said, we hung about together, we drank together, we socialised together. And I just couldn't believe it. The shock, I think it just hit the whole club, because Guffer was the club. And I think it affected the players in a big, big way. So that probably half of Portadown who knew Guffer, I think it affected them in the same way. I remember Guffer all his life, he had aches and pains. We thought nothing of him, so it didn't. But then, before he died, I'd visit him. He was in hospital, and my present girlfriend, she was a nurse up there, and I used to go up and visit him. She used to say to me, trying to talk to Guffer, it's terrible, but he's hiding in the toilets, having a smoke, and I've told him, you're not allowed to smoke in the hospital, things like that. But the last meeting I had with him was on a Thursday night before he died. I didn't even think for a million years that death was just about around the corner for him. And he was sitting on his bed and he was complaining about a sore back. And at them days it was deep heating. He says to me, could you rub some deep heating in my back? And I thought nothing of it. And we were joking away. And then when the telephone call came that Friday night, I just couldn't believe it.
And what was the funeral like then? Was it a big event?
Massive. Completely. Like I said, Brownstown, was one of the biggest crowds I've ever seen in Brownstown, because Guffer was like that much, in Portadown. The ones that attended it, his testimony, Guffer's friendship with so many people. There was the Scottish players had come over, people who Guffer had met in his travels, going over to watch Glasgow Rangers. Jimmy Nicholl was there. All the ones you can really think of, in them days. I think that some of the Dunfermline players had attended, but like I said, it affected the club in a big, big way because Guffer had done so much for him, and there was people who was going to take Guffer's place.
That was sort of you just stepped into his shoes and done more or less what he was doing.
Yeah. Guffer was doing secondary, he was going to the meetings, he had got his sister watching the football skips, things like that there. I know that they sound simple nowadays where it's all done for you, the players don't have to worry about anything. But Guffer, he was the main man getting all these here done, keeping the boys in check, keeping the club going, things like that there. And it affected me in a big, big way. And like I said, every anniversary I always make it one of the things that I have to do is leave flowers at his grave just to remember him on the 21st of July of every year.
Oh, he was a legend. He was a legend in Hanover club, like Anport down. He signed me in 85 and went into that wee place down in Brownstown. He made me feel like Geordie Best. He just knew everything about me.
Yeah.
And here's this man. And from then on, like we were just best friends. You just loved him.
Yeah.
And he'd have done anything for you. And he'd have phoned you up. And there's one story I have to tell, and I still remember it as if it was yesterday. He phoned me up one Sunday morning. And at that time he was driving a wee Alec Kerr, and we used to call it the budget. Right? And he says, Gator, I'm going down to lift Jimmy Nicholl. Northern Ireland were playing in Belfast. I'm lifting Jimmy at the airport. Would you come down with me? And I says, I will go down, but I'm not going down in the budget. He says, no, I'm getting my sister's Orangia, Gator, Orangia, which was, we went down anyway. And I don't know why he'd said to Jimmy, make sure you say, what about you, Gator, or something. He just made you feel good. And we're walking out, and he shouts over, have you any room for Billy? And Guffer says, aye, bring him along. And me, Guffer, Billy Bingham, and Jimmy Nicholl were in the car going to the hotel. And I'm sitting there as a Northern Ireland supporter, a young fella, going, frick, this is unbelievable. But it was water off a duck's back to Guffer. He knew everybody, he had everybody's phone number. He was just an unbelievable character. You miss him every day, and you loved him, and he was just brilliant. But when he did pass on, Grass stepped into his shoes and was just another Hanover legend, because the club wouldn't be going without Guffer and without you, in my opinion. Like.
So Barry and Rudzo, you both broke into the team around the same time in the mid-90s. So Rudzo, can you tell me, how did you come into breaking into Hanover first team?
Well, just it was my performances for the seconds. I was doing really well for the seconds, playing well, playing good, turning up for training, doing well in training. And a lot of the older players in the first team were just getting over the hill a wee bit. So Maggots brought me in first as a substitute, and then I broke onto the team and sort of kept my place. I played at right back and left back. So wherever they needed me, I played whatever position they needed me to do at that time. But mainly it was right back at the time. And then continued my good form and just kept my place in the team. And then that's how sort of I got broke into the first team back then. Like.
And who would some of the other players have been in the team whenever you were coming into it as a youngster?
The captain would have been John Milligan. McCanny would have been in nets. You had still the Mississippi trainer there, was still a good wee player. Jimmy Stewart, Barry, a good player coming through the ranks as well. Can't really think too much. Wayne Stewart. I think Kyle Dixon might have been still about at the time. Good senior pros. Gordon Green would have still been there, still playing rightly. And I think I was sort of the start of the younger players coming through at Hanover. The sort of the older hands going out and the younger players coming through.
So Barry, you were coming through at this time as well. So what's your memories really of coming into the team at this time?
I'd probably come into the team because they had players short, and they just needed players to come in. And then when I did come in, I got a wee run in the team, and I done quite well. Come the end of the season, scored a few goals, and then everything was optimistic for the next season.
that sort of time period in 1996, 97, when you both were coming into the team, you had a good run in the Premier Cup final that year, and you got to the final. Barry, can you tell me a bit about that?
Well, don't forget it anyway. Well, I remember it because I scored in the quarter-final, I scored 2 in the semi-final, and I got dropped for the final, and I was raging. And I couldn't, I got really emotional in the change rooms before it, but, you know, I got over it. But then the final itself was a complete disappointment. We got beat last minute, extra time, just no time to respond. It was just a real downer.
And could I come in there? I think it sort of put a downer in the team as well, knowing that Barry had done so well in the quarter final and the semi final. It sort of put a dampener on the start of the match for us as well, to be quite honest with you. I thought the boys thought he was hard done by. Like,
what's your memories of the goal, like how that match ended as well?
It was just a big long punt up the pitch. The last minute of the match, just hold out, and it bounced. It went over our heads, and Big John Milligan could have cleared it, no problem at all. But McCanny called it. McCanny came right out of his box, and we dum-dum played centre forward from Bonbridge. He was only about 5 foot, about 7. Just ran in between the two of us and just out jumped McCanny and lumped it over his head and in the net. And as soon as that ball crossed the line, the referee blew the whistle. I could have cried. I mean, my first ever cup final for Hanover, and it ended like that. And it was so disappointing. Like,
You've got another chance so the next season. So the next season then, 97, 98, you've got to the Bass Bowl final as well. So
yeah.
What's your memories of that one, Rudzo?
Well, I was suspended for that final, which wasn't because I think I got too many points up, so I missed that. But I watched it from the stands, and that Bestbrick side were an absolute amazing side, and only for Andy Topley that day, I think would have been beat up by a lot more. Like
Easter Monday, that was.
Easter Monday.
We're beat 1-0.
But Andy
should have really
Topley
been beat 5-0. Only the goalkeeper was just amazing, and we're well beat. We're surprised to get the final, to be honest, because we had a pretty poor season. But you know, every time you get beat, you learn a wee bit, don't you?
But that Bestbrick team was full of ex-Irish League players, like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And they were a brilliant side, like, probably one of the best sides I ever played against. At amateur level, you know, you've played against Irish League teams, but I mean, at that level, that Bestbrick team would have been up there, probably with the Warren Points and maybe the Lurgan Celtics at the time, like.
So those couple of seasons, you guys breaking into the team and playing a couple of finals. Maggots was the manager. For the season after that then, in 1998-99, Maggots left as manager early in the season and Packer Woods came in. Packer's a big character, Barry. What was it like playing under him?
Well, Packer had been at Hanover for years. He was a Hanover man. He was dedicated, and the squad he had, we all tried our best for him. He was always good at getting the best out of all the players, but he probably just didn't have the quality in the squad. And he was there for just over a year, and maybe he thought he couldn't take the squad any further.
What's your memories of it, Rudzo?
Packer, he was always good for a laugh, good crack, you know, as I say, he's a total character, you know what I mean? I say Hanover through and through too, came in, done his best, you know, with a bunch of lads, maybe not the quality in the scene that we had back in the day, but he done his best, and we tried for him, like, you know, because what ways they got there, you do want to give your all,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And just some of the team talks were interesting at the time, you know what I mean? Like, it was back real old school team talks, if you understand where I'm coming from. But, you know, a good character and a lovable guy as well, to be quite honest with you, like.
At the beginning of that season too, Collie O'Neill has also played for a while, so what was it like playing with him, Rudzo?
Training with Colin O'Neill was good because the skill he had was unreal. No, his first touches, his technique and everything, hitting the ball was outstanding. The only thing downside Colin had at that time, his legs were gone, he couldn't run as much. But when you had him on the pitch, he could pull a goal out absolutely nothing. No, any dead ball situation, you would near enough put money on Colin O'Neill finding the top corner, like, you know, because he played for Scottish League football. He scored against Celtic in a semi-final of a cup, which will always live long in our memories, if you understand. You know, he's a top quality player for Portadown before he went there, and it was just good to play with a player with that experience and an ex-Northern Ireland international. It was a great experience.
So there was a bit of change too in that season with Maggots leaving and Packer coming in. You also had players coming and going, so Darren Richardson and John Milligan had went to BB, probably with maggots during the season. Jason Woods had left and he went to Glenavon, then ended up going on to Coke. And then also had Nigel McCartney coming back to us from Tandragee, and Bunty, he had signed from Tandragee as well. So what was the feelings of the team in around this time, Barry?
Well, we got 2 quality players coming in, so it wasn't as if we had 2 players going out and 2 quality players coming in. So we're probably still enthusiastic. We're all young and we thought we were going to win things, but obviously things didn't go our way all the time. But it was an up and down time. One week we were brilliant, next week we were poor. It was a bit unsettled. But it was probably the start of us building a team, to be honest. Younger players coming in, older players leaving.
So you had said about the older players moving out and the younger players moving in, Barry, so that obviously takes a wee bit of time to gel, and probably seen that the next season when we didn't really do too well.
Well, we couldn't get a win at the start of the season, and it was putting everybody under pressure. I don't think we got a win until October. We're around the bottom of the league, and Packer left then. New manager came in and we sort of picked up a little bit, but I think we got away. We ended up stayed up by a point, and it was very, very nervy season.
That was for the first team, but the second team actually did do well that season, and they ended up winning the Mid-Ulster, the Intermediate Reserves Cup. So, Rudzo, you played in that and you also scored on it.
Rodney Heatrick took over the seconds, and we had a good wee nucleus of young players coming through, and then Rodney brought a couple of experienced players in to play along with the seconds, I think maybe in the semi-final and the final. And the final was against Market Hill Swifts, and I think we were 2-0 up at half time, cruising the match, and then I think sort of maybe pressure got a couple of the players a wee bit sometimes. We conceded a goal, and then when you're 2-1 down, you're always thinking the worst, if you understand me. And then Market Hill did score, but I had a brilliant chance to win the match in normal time. I was clean through, but my legs went and somebody caught me and took a ball at me. I wasn't used to running that far up the pitch, I have to be honest. And then it went to the dreaded penalty shootout. And I remember, because Big Grizz is... his stag party was that night over in the coach, and all we wanted to do was get the match done and dusted, get over to the coach to get the drink. But the penalty shootout came, and of course he says I'd take a penalty, and it was a disaster. Must have bounced 3 times before it rolled in the keeper's hands. And then Sharky, he'd scored in the final as well. He took it up and he missed his, but thankfully we got near the end and it came down to Alan Gracie, the old man of the ship, and he put the penalty away. And I think maybe Grass got player of the man of the match that day as well. So it was a good day all round. And then we got a taxi to the coach, all happy as Laurie. And so
I've never seen a bigger crowd on a second team match.
It was a big crowd.
Thousands there. I couldn't believe it. But half of them were probably going to the coach.
No, I think we were all going over to the coach, the Grizzlies stag party.
So the scores on that day, you're right, Rudzo, it was yourself and Sharky scored in normal time. And then you missed the first 2 penalties. Then Smutsy, Greeno, Johnny Blevins and Grass scored the rest.
I just remember Grass scoring the winning penalty. As it says, Grass, it's a hell of a lot better penalty than the one that he took on later on.
We've seen him score.
Well, we'll talk about that one later on against Tandragee Rovers. It's still bobbling across the pitch, I think.
You must have been playing up front that day. If you
I was playing left hand side of midfield that day. I scored with a header. Because I couldn't have scored anyone with my foot, I don't think.
So the mid to late 90s wasn't a very successful time on the pitch, but we reached the big milestone in the history of Hanover when we moved to the famous Hanover club that we're sitting in now. So, Grass, what's your memories of moving to the club?
It was one of the first times that we had a permanent base for ourselves. So we'd been moving from pub to pub. I'd been at when I first came, we were in Berks, just probably about 500 yards down the road from us now. From there, we moved on to the Chalet. That was when the Portadown was going well. We were lucky enough, I knew the man who had taken over the lease of it, so I had Mr. McCure, and he obliged us for the back room. He had renovated it all, and we used to have the Friday night discos in the back, to get finances. But then Guffer, he knew the owner of these premises that were in now, Mr. Bobby Jamison, who sadly passed away there a few years back. And Guffer got a deal. But when we first took us here over, it wasn't what it is nowadays. We had to do an awful lot of work to it. Seating, upholstery, things like that there, to get it in. And over the years, we've spent an awful lot of money, to this present formation now that it is.
And who would have been doing the work back then to get it ready?
At that time, I was a self-employed joiner, so I done most of the work to get all the seatings in. At this time, it was not the configuration it was now. The bar used to be up here just at the right-hand side when you come in through the door. But over the years, there's a different configuration because the health and safety regulations. I've spent an awful lot of money on the seats and the upholstery, fire retardant curtains, things like that there. But like I say, we're proud of what we have now. Like I say, it's a good base for us, and like I say, it's always well used.
Barry, what's your memories of back in the day then, trying to get the club up and running as it is now?
Well, the club now is a palace compared to what it was then. Put it like that. It was like a meat hanger then. There was no heating in it. There was the only people doing the work was Grass, and he was doing most of it for free. In fact, the only maybe buying the materials, that was it. But all the labour work he was doing himself, and it was a struggle because the committee wasn't the way the committee is now. There might have been 4 or 5 guys in the committee, but there was nobody committed the way they are now. Everybody was working hard now, in present day, and everybody's got a job. But back then, it was just the committee was just to pick a manager or like there was nobody even doing the bar back then. You used to throw 50p in a cup, and not everybody coming in, and that paid the rent. And then we used to have card schools, and then they took £1 out of each hand of the card schools, and we used it to pay the rent. But it was a struggle.
Well, you'd said the club was like a palace now, so sometimes even now, I would think the club's cold, but here back in the day, it was extremely cold on a night out in here.
Well, the only heater we had was a Super Sir, and it sat over there. And then the odd time it used to run out of gas. And then when it run out of gas, everybody would have been into the committee room, and they'd been coming out with the sub-suits, and they'd been putting them on, and they'd been laying in the chairs, and you wouldn't have got, there would have been no girls in the place, no way, it was far too cold for that. It was just a typical man social club, but it was good crack, and it built a bit of momentum going forward. Everybody was good, there was all good friendships made here.
So what's some of the things you did to try and make the club more appealing for people to come in?
Well, the first thing we done, which we had to address the heating because there was no heat. So we bought all the materials. I think Davy White was a player then. He was working in a place in Lisburn, plumbing place, and he got us all the materials. So me and Grass done most of the labour ourselves, hung the radiators and put the pipes together. And we got a boiler and we got it all going. And everything was great until there was one big frost. And it was that heavy a frost that the radiators actually froze in the club. And then when they defrosted, they all busted. So it was a complete waste of money. Yeah. We had to do the whole thing again.
What about TV, or did you watch football in here? Or?
We actually bought a TV off the Rangers Club, Rich Hill Rangers Club. They were upstairs in McVeigh's. It was it weighed about half a ton. We paid £100 for it, but it was this big, massive 50-inch screen, and that was the first big TV. We had to build a special table to set it on. Yeah, remember in that corner?
That's correct.
But and then what else? We got the pool table. We bought a pool table off the paper. Somebody was selling a pool table, a blue pool table, but it was bigger than that pool table. It was about 8 foot. It was in between a snooker table and a pool table, and it was free, so everybody loved it. So that was the start of it.
So a big part of setting the club up and getting that blue pool table then was the pool team that started in 1987. So there's a lot of stories about the pool team, and it's pretty famous. So why did we start the pool team? Like, were people interested in pool?
Well, it was Mark Hazley, Smutsy, who started the pool team. There was a pour down pool league, and everybody loved playing pool down here. The first thing you done after football was put your name on the chalkboard.
Financially too, he was getting a few pounds.
Yeah, it was getting a few pounds into the club as well. Other teams coming up here, and then it was more crack than anything else. But then it started to turn very serious because there were some real good pool players in this, and we knew we could win things, and ended up the pool team was probably
better than the football team.
Yeah, the most successful anyway.
So in that period, like it started up in 1997 and like 98, 99, 2000, winning doubles, winning trebles, winning the leagues, winning loads and loads of trophies.
Yeah, and then Bunty, he created the song, and it was just, it was good crack. You can't.
I think deep down, I think we wouldn't achieve what we achieved without that Thursday nights, because we were
without this place.
The Thursday nights, man. It wasn't just one or two of us; the whole team, right? Like if you look at the boys now, they watch what they eat, they go to the gym. See, back in the day, we wouldn't entertain the gym. Like it was, if you went to the gym, you were called names like for going to the gym. But I'm just saying, we went on Thursday night. But what we had on the Thursday night probably won us the league, because we were only 16 boys in our squad. We had no more, and that we were tight bunch, and we all went and played pool. I honestly do believe that's what won us the league.
So you would have been out all together as a team every Thursday night and every Saturday. What would your typical Thursday night at the pool look like?
When you finish work, we was as neighbouring to him. When you finish work, you got home, and every week you'd got a massive Fat Scotty, wouldn't you?
Yep.
And we pool the night, right? No buzzing, everybody buzzing. But then we're going with change, we're over here. But there's weeks he had to come down with a pot of
food?
Food, no, he had a big pot of food. He had to serve food for everybody and all. We had to play a few games of pool and thing. But you're meant to go home, 11, 12 o'clock, but it never happened, like. You're here by 6 in the morning.
Well, not every week, but
most weeks.
Do you think this, so you're saying, Woodsy, that it helped in the long run in terms of building the camaraderie, but I think short term it hindered the Saturdays?
Yeah, you felt it. There's no two ways about it. You felt it on a Saturday, but I still maintain what we had on the Thursday night.
Is that what you're saying?
You'd have done anything for each other outside of the football through the week. If anybody was in any trouble or anything, you'd have done anything for each other, right or wrong.
Well, the atmosphere.
That's just the way we were.
The club was building as a happy place for people to come. Anybody who was part of it,
And then it must have been, the pool must have actually helped build the club up too.
Oh, it did.
It did.
An article in 1999 in the paper about the Hanover pool tournament and 116 people.
That's right. Had to be played over 2 days, I think. But it was just back then the club was buzzing, and then the money was coming in, and then we're getting our act again. It was paying the bills. The pool team was paying the bills, basically, buying the skips.
So then the whole buzz around the club too. There was obviously a lot of parties happening here, and it was something that started too was the club trips. So, can you tell us about the club trips? What are some of your favourite club trips, Barry?
Portrush was the first ever.
Portrush, Portrush was good because
brilliant.
You know what I mean, and you couldn't not get home from Portrush.
What do you call the butchers beside Jackson's Ollie and the way down the town?
Charlie Malls.
We stopped there, and we got all the night. We had a barbecue, on the beach. Lying on the beach, the grass was cooking.
We actually went played a few friendlies up there too. But the boys weren't interested in football.
No.
You know what I mean? They were probably half drunk going onto the pitch. But we used to stay in a place called Duke's Lodge, and it was like a villa. It was like a bungalow, and then it had apartments with it, and then we stayed in, what do you call that one? The
Lang home.
The Lang home. We stayed there a few times. But they were the start, and then the trips got a bit more brazen. We started to go to Scotland, then Liverpool, and then different places, and went to Edinburgh. Disaster. I know, but a lot of the trips didn't go as well as you thought. Everybody got drunk, but you know yourself, you get 30 boys all drinking. There's usually 3 or 4 go missing.
What about then the Millennium fancy dress party in here as well?
Being honest, that's New Year. That's the last New Year I was ever out, and as we're mine, Ben and Josh Moe at the time were fancy dressed, and I'll never forget this today, because my mum and dad were both down with the flu, they were both in bed. And as Tom told the Indian, and she came in and she was dressed, and I went up to see my mum and dad, because we were living next door. I come over here, and Mahood, Dennis, Willie Clayton and all.
Everybody was dressed. There wasn't one person who wasn't
It was
dressed.
brilliant. He won it. When we hear the mask. he won the thing.
We're out for fuck's sake, you lost about 2 stone, weren't it?
No, but it was something. That's actually the last time I was ever out New Year's Eve.
Somebody that would have been a big part of all these parties in the club at the time, and all the nights out as well, would have been Fat Scotty. So he's sadly no longer with us, but I think it's fitting if we include him in this video and we'll talk about him for a bit. So what's your memories?
See what's happening now, he would have absolutely loved it. And he would have been, this would have been right up his
He would have been in the thick of it. He played a big part, like.
He did.
You know, he brought money into the club and sponsorship, and he worked hard. He just loved Hanover. He even had a Hanover number plate on his BM. You know what I mean? So,
Well, they even had that. See, boys that were maybe outside of the football and anything, he looked after you too, because you were a Hanover.
Oh,
You know, if you needed anything, like
Yeah, yeah.
he'd have sorted you out.
Oh, he was a good mate, like.
Aye, he was. But he see this here, what's happening now, he would have loved that.
yeah.
Do you have any funny stories about Scotty that you can tell?
What about it? We went to Edinburgh one year. He's wearing we're the top.
I see.
He's wearing a pair of Burberry Gutties.
With holes in them.
Everything had to be designer with Scotty, but he had a hole in the toe of his Burberry shoe. There's me, him, Willie Clayton, Jack Donald, they were sitting in the room, and Willie or Fordo threw his shoe out the window because of the hole on the toe of the Burberry shoe. There was a tramp. I swear to God, he threw the fucking shoe
Back.
up in through the window, right? The shoe come back in through the window.
Because there was a hole in it.
And Fordo says, I'm not. The tramp will not even wear that shoe. He says, it's right.
That's right. Oh,
So that was one of them anyway. But everything had to be designer, had to be the best of stuff. No was Scotty.
Burberry scarf, Burberry.
But everything, aye. But he was good.
He was the first person to ever heard of that joke. Is there a B&Q in Newry? No,
Yeah.
but there's 2
2 days in the knock. He's the first ever to come in this club on mobile phones. This is back in the day, right?
Brick.
Oh, frick me. No, like Dom Jolly. Hello. Right, come in. Such a bit of stick, and then, you know, down the line, then we all ended up with mobile phones, but he got some stick. He's the first ever on mobile. He thought he was the man with this mobile phone, like.
So, Bunty, you signed as a teenager at the beginning of the 1998 season. What attracted you to come down and sign for Hanover?
Probably the big thing for myself would be I signed probably a bit after Nigel McCartney signed, so he was probably my captain on a leading role at Tanagee Rovers, where I came from. So being local, again, at that time where Hanover played, I was literally seconds away from the football pitch. So I knew a lot of people about the club at the time. And again, it was always spoke about between myself and probably this man as well, you know, growing up in the estate together, and then obviously Hanover being the main team at the time. But I played for Tanagee Rovers seconds today that actually did physically sign, and that was the days of when it was done on a bit of paper. So I came back to the club here, and all the Tanagee guys had sort of left to go, and I'd seen Jason and a few of our mates sort of hanging about the club, and the boys were all putting the pressure on about signing. So the bit of paper was set down in front of me, and I signed it down in the seat down at the front of the club. And the minute that the last full stop was put beside my name, the paper was swiped away as quick as it could, and that was it. And then I had to go through the whole dilemma of telling my old manager Tony Bell the bad news on the house phone at the time. There's no mobiles back then, so no. The big thing for me at the time was the fact that it was local. McCartney had left Tanagee, I think, weeks maybe before I had signed. And then obviously the friendship through the local estate and things like that. So that was the big thing for me at the time, you know.
So you'd signed as a teenager, and you seemed to make a big impact. You'd scored on your debut for the second team, and then you got straight into the first team. So what's your memories of playing for the first team, like back then when you were a teenager in that team?
It was tough. I was a grown up session, to be fair. Like, I would have been 18, you know, pushing into 19 years of age at that time. And you were coming in that change rooms with some of the biggest characters in intermediate football, and you know, you had to grow up straight away. That was your grasses and co, and like no matter what, you had to learn to stand up for yourself big time. You know, you were criticised for everything that you'd done. You know, people seen probably the good in you and where you could go. So the minute you'd done something wrong, you had to stand up for yourself straight away. Like, so I took that like a duck to water, because I was always renowned for having a big mouth. So it was no problem. But no, the playing days back then was probably difficult at the start. You know, I don't believe we were the strongest team. You know, league places at that time would have reflected that. So it was tough, but it was also enjoyable to understand. You're getting to play with characters like Gross and Nigel McCartney, and back then was Rudzo and Barry Harson and things like that, you know. But it was enjoyable too. Like,
So you signed for Hanover, Bunty, when you were a teenager, and right around the perfect time too that the club was getting up and running, and the pool team had also got up and running. So was this social scene part of the draw as well that got you down here?
It has to be 18, 19 years of age. You know yourself. You know you're starting to, well, not starting, but you're well into. You know, you're going out and being social and making friends. But at that time in the club, you know, pool was one of the biggest things after the football. Football was the first and foremost, was always football, but pool was a very close second. When I first came here, Hanover weren't winning anything, to be fair, and we all know that. But the pool teams were. But by the time I came, the pool was that big of a thing. It ended up that there was 2 teams in the club, and I always played for the second team that was formed, which we were called the Eagles. It was run by Weaver at the time, so it was an experience in itself. You know, the Thursday nights in here were the best night of your week. There were your highlight, like mid your Friday and work, your 12-hour shift in the Friday and work, like a 2-day session. So it was, but no, it was good. The social scene was brilliant at the time. Everybody was really friendly, open. Everybody made you feel welcome in this club, and that was one of the biggest things for me, probably, that took off over the years. You know, shortly after that, you know, when I went into maybe being the age of maybe 20, into my second, third year, you really seen the benefits of how welcoming people made you feel in the club, especially around the pool and the Thursday nights and the training nights and the Saturdays after games. You know, we built up that friendship was amazing. Like,
so the pool team was a successful part of Hanover for a while. Whenever on the pitch we weren't very successful, so I believe you coined a good song for that.
Yes, this was like the old anthem back then. We had to hang on to something. We weren't winning football matches, but the pool team kept sweeping up, and that was the first team in the pool team. So I played for the Eagles as the seconds, but we sort of made a bit of a song up. I done it one day in Urban's Bakery. I worked at the time, and obviously doing 12-hour shifts was a boring job. I just kept thinking of the managers over the years who had signed, you know, or who was coaching us. So it was Packer and Davy White and things like that came along. So because the pool teams were winning the trophies, we had to try and claim the glory somewhere. So I sat one day spraying the tops of Urban's Bakery loaves, thinking of all these lyrics and songs. And it took me maybe 3 or 4 weeks and after that, you know, on a couple of bus trips to try and get the song out there. But it ended up turning into be one of Hanover's anthems at the time. Like, but it was good. It got some rattle on the buses to and from the games.
That's the famous "If You're Feeling Sad and Lonely" song.
If you're feeling sad and lonely and you've got no place to go, come on down to Hanover. We're on the Brownstown Road. But no, it's been that long from a song I don't know about the words. But the famous thing was the pool team wins the trophies and the football wins. Well, I'll not say
Football.
That's more or less. And that's the way it was at the time. You know, Hanover was actually being the club itself was being put on the map for the pool. But to be fair, not all of it for the good reasons, because the place was that cold. There was no heating in here. So we had many teams in the winter would have come down and they would have come in ones. The rest of them would have sat out in the cars out there, but we'd have been had 4 coats on waiting to play our pool match. But no, the club got put on the map pretty good with the pool teams back then, to be fair.
So one of the people that's famous in Hanover's history is Gavin Scotty, who's no longer with us. So I'd like to ask you some of your memories of him. So Bunty, I'll start with you. What's some of your memories of Scotty from whenever you first signed and played at the club?
Probably tough to keep it all above board, to be fair, but no, probably friendship was probably the biggest memory we had, the friendship that I built with the fellow. But as again, I've already touched on the fact that when I first signed for the club, it was always done through that game whenever I played for the seconds and came back and signed here in the club. You know, Scotty was the manager at the time. I remember turning up my first training session, which was the Tuesday night after. and Scotty met me at the pavilion, you know, just as I come in through Brownstown Park, and he was all out with the handshakes and, you know, introduced me to people, and like it was almost as if this was Mr. Hanover, this was the man that was running the show, and he met me in this long brown leather jacket, and he looked like the right person, like, but I'll never forget it. It was a wee bit embarrassing, more to talk about when I went out. So the first training session, because I'd played so well against the twos on the Saturday previous, he had me running against Smutsy. And while the whole first and second time were doing laps at the start of the training session, there I was just taking on this one person in the middle of the football pitch. And it was a wee bit embarrassing at the time, but that was Scotty. Scotty was the one that, you know, his vision was his vision, and he had to get it across, and his opinion on football, nobody else's mattered. You know, he was a strong-minded person, and although a lot of really good memories of Scotty over the years, and you know, all not just on the pitch, to be fair, not just involved with football, but outside of it, you know. And again, that's probably touching on some of the previous comments that we've mentioned about how the togetherness. That didn't just come with players, that came with, like, Scotty was a big part of the committee in here, so sometimes you had to find that line between players and a committee, but that wasn't there for a good lot of the time. You know, we grew that friendship because it was Hanover. We were all just the one, and Scotty, in fairness, at that time, whenever I signed, and all through them years, was a huge focal point of that, and a huge part of it, and he got us into some predicaments as well with his opinions, but that was Scotty. That's who he was, you know.
So Gator, you came in the 2001-2002 season, so you came back as manager. So Scotty would have been part of the committee back then and would have been one of the ones that brought you in as manager. So can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, well, he did. He contacted me. Now, me and him were friends, but well before that. And I'd managed Seago the year before, and we won the B division. So Scotty had contacted me to come up to see the committee about maybe taking Hanover the following season. So I came up and we had a good chat, and basically the committee said, this is what you're going to get. But Scotty, being Scotty, because Scotty liked the good things in life. He liked his BMWs and his good clothes and his Hanover number plate, which he was very proud of. And Grass, and I think Grass says now, whatever deal you do with Scotty, if you're going to come, that's between you and Scotty. So me and Scotty talked about it. I didn't ask for anything, but Scotty says, listen, if you're in the top two by Christmas, you'll get that. And if you win the league, you'll get that. I'll not say what it was, but it was good for me anyway. So we went on, took the job anyway. We were going well. I think we were second by Christmas. So I think late January came about. I said, Scotty hasn't come in. You know what Scotty was like. So I rang him. I said, Scotty, what's the crack? We're top two by Christmas. Oh, I forgot about that, kid. I didn't. So anyway, it was sorted out. But Scotty was a great lad. He loved Hanover. And as Bunty touched on, even with the whole team, I think sometimes a manager and players have to sort of keep a divide between the manager and players, and the committee. But when we won that league, there was no divide.
No.
Everybody just played the match, got the 3 points, came in here, stayed here most of the night, played cards, and then went on somewhere else. And that's probably why there were so many divorces in that year, because nobody went home. Everybody just wanted to stay together. And just to say more on Scotty, I knew him before we came here. And Scotty, now, he didn't have money, but because I remember driving the lorry and calling around to maybe take him on a few runs, and we'd have been putting the eggs through into Wellworth. And this day he was pushing the trolley and he bumped into the checkout. And here's me, he can't get the staff these days, he's on the way TP. So the crack was 90, but I remember him asking his dad, could you lend me a tenner? And Reggie would have said, negative, Gavin, negative, you need to get a job. So Scotty actually went back and he went to university, he studied hard, he got a good job, and he was a self-made man, like he made his own money because it wasn't handed to him, like. But he wasn't as you said, like with the sponsorships and stuff, what came in, I think it was in my time too, near the end, that he had put up player of the match, got £30. But in the end days, the player of the match got £30. So I went straight to the bar and bought everybody a drink with the £30. You know, and that's the way it was.
Yeah. He worked really, really hard, you know, on Scotty being Scotty, and anybody from the club back then would know he had the knack to go and do that with people, you know, approach people, businessmen, you know, guys that just work for themselves, you know, they get these sponsorships because it wasn't easy back then. They get 30 quid off somebody for every single match that you played. But Scotty was one of those ones that had the knack for it. He had the talk for it, and he knew how to do it. And as Gator said, like, that was a big thing back then, you know, like 30 quid for man a match coming in here for the likes of even somebody like myself, maybe 18, 19, 20 years of age. It was a good few pound to give you a head start on a Saturday. But as Gator said, a lot of the time, most of it just went straight behind a bar. And it was, remember, it was the names took down who played that day, and you come in and you got yourself your beer from the man a match. But it was just another piece of how close we were back then in that era and that group of players, like.
So, Gator, you coming in started to signal like a real period of success from us, especially like in your period as manager from 2002 to 2005. So you had just won trophies with Sego the season before. So what were you thinking about our squad whenever you were coming from Sego to manage us? Like, what was it really attracted you to the job?
The squad was there, but Hanover were my club. I just loved Hanover. I bought a house in the Sego Road, and by the time I got out of here and got through the town and ended up in the rugby club, I always sort of bumped into the likes of Joe McMurray and stuff from Sego. So I said, Gator, you're living in Sego now, would you come and play for us for a couple of seasons? So I did, and then I managed them. But that was great time too. But we came here. The players now, I know they went close the year before with Davy White, but I think they just fell away at the end. And once we got in, I wasn't really a great one for training. Grass took the training, so I just left it to Grass. He knew what he was doing. I watched training. My attributes would have been obviously picking the team, getting the formation right, team talks, encouraging people during the match, seeing what was going wrong, what went wrong in one match. Like, I'd have been at home, got a bottle of wine and sat and go, right, he done this, he done that. I'd have spent hours analysing the match that we just had, and probably the next morning I never remembered a thing that I was analysing, but it worked. It sort of worked now.
It did, yeah.
It was a great team, just full of characters and just the team ethic. Everybody was playing for each other.
So that season you came in, you'd come in as manager, brought in Jack Irwin, I think.
Yeah, well, Jack was coming anyway, and I didn't really bring him in.
And then you were still unbeaten in December, I think, that year in your first season.
Yeah, I think the whole season we only conceded about 11 or 13 goals. The defence, the back four were animals.
Yeah.
Definitely Paul Kern, Nigel McCartney, Rudzo and Scott Leggett. 4 animals. I wouldn't have liked to have been playing again then, boys. Like.
And then what was it like? Do you remember the night that you won the league?
Oh, it's memories that'll live with you forever. Like, it's what football's all about. It's about no matter what anybody tells you, and even through all the youth things and all now, people say winning's not important. It is. It's what you thrive for. But that night was definitely something special. You know, I don't think it stopped raining the whole day.
No,
it was actually there were real worries that, you know, that the match wouldn't even be played that night. But no, I don't think anybody was beating us that night, to be fair. You know, I think everything really took over and took shape that night, where everything just came into one piece with all that camaraderie, togetherness, the effort that we put in all that year, all that season, you know, from Gator, from Grass, you know, off the pitch. But then that was just a night where I think everybody just drew that line in the sand and said, no, you know, this is where we have to push it over the line. So it's strange, because out of all the pictures and memories and things over the years, you'll struggle to get, you know, 15 pictures of that night, of 15 different pictures of the night it happened. But it was just amazing. Like, and then obviously coming back into the club that night, you know, midweek.
You felt so proud.
Oh, it was
because all the supporters were in here.
Yeah.
You were walking in, and every player came in, and when I came in as manager, the round of applause, the hairs in the back of your neck.
Oh, even now I'm sitting here with goosebumps of that, you know. And
yeah.
we sat here at all hours in the morning. The club put on a free bar for all the players and the coaches and everything else in the committee, and it's memories that'll live forever. But again, obviously in the background of that as well, and I know maybe you'll probably touch on it here or go into it, but you'd always that, the cup final and things like that, or, the run in the cup and all still coming up as well, but that was all put in the back burner on a Wednesday evening at about 8 o'clock. There was the last thing in our mind was football. It was just about enjoying the hard work of what had been on that season. Like.
And I think you got a hold of Tony Bell's number that night.
Oh, it did. His house number. It was. And in fairness to Tony, he took it in good spirits, because he'd made a comment during the year. It was just, again, it was about Ulster football. Everybody else had a wee jibe at each other and a wee joke, and then the guys got the number and for the phone, Tony's house phone, and all sitting down at the bar, and everybody was singing the song, then Hanover songs down the phone to Tony, and he took it in good spirits, at the time. But
I did, because I remember on the Thursday morning going down. I took a couple of days off, and I was going down to the garage to get something, and I seen this horn tooting, friggin' Tony Bell, in the car heading up to the tack to teach. So he never looked left or right. He just straight out of the bat, straight onto the footpath. He says, "Here we go. These boys thinking on him last night." He says, "Get in." So I got in, and now, to be fair, he congratulated me. But at the end of it, he says, "Tell your boys they can't sing." And I says, "That's all right, Tony." So, no. It was a great night, and I was so happy for Grass, because I think that was his first league title winning medal. It definitely was mine, because as a player I never won one team trophy. I won leading goal scorer and player of the year and stuff, but that was my first, apart from Sego. But as I said to you boys at the start, or through, I can remember, I says, I think it was Nigel McCartney had won a title and somebody else had won a title. I says, imagine boys winning a title for the club that you love.
Yeah.
And I think the best speech I ever gave going out, we were at home to Tandagee, and I think half the boys were going out crying, because I was talking about Guffer and Tommy McCabe and stuff, do it for them. We were about 5-0. And here's me, and the boys had said to me, that was some speech. Here's me, but we were about 5-0. But we still went on and won it. Like.
We went on and won it. And like, those things always stick out, and as Gator said, like, you have to think of people like Grass and some of the people that worked hard over the years to get the club to where they went to, because I'm sure even me sitting here speaking now, when you go back in the past, some of the hard times over the years for this club, long before me and even through the early years, of me, like financially, getting players in, things that went on in the background that the players and people don't realise, but they paid off in the end for a league title, especially intermediate, was exceptional for them people, and you're forever grateful for what they do, and that's the only way a player can ever repay people like that, and that's by giving it all on the pitch and winning stuff for the club. Like,
who would have been some of your standout players of that season, 2002?
Oh, the whole team were just absolutely brilliant. But you have to look at Graham Little and Darren Devlin as a partnership, unbelievable.
Outstanding.
Graham Little could finish, like. Yeah. And then you had Barry Harrison, like. Yeah. he had some work rate. He could have put one in the top corner from 30 yards, and he could have put one 10 yards over the bar from 1 yard. Yeah. You didn't know what you were going to get with Barry, but when he clicked, he clicked. Yeah. Like that night against Ballymacash, we won it. He got a hat-trick.
Yeah, hat-trick, yeah.
So it was 4-0 against Ballymacash on a rainy Wednesday night. Barry got 3. Who got the other one?
I think it was Graham, was it?
I think so, yeah.
It was Graham, because then the only way I ever remember that was nearly the reverse in the cup final.
Graham got a hat-trick.
Yeah, I think that's the way I always remembered. But no, it was good now.
So that was that same year then, we're just about to get on to it, we also won the Bass Bowl. So a double winning season in your first season as manager, Gator. So
I don't think that Bass Bowl final, if would have been playing anybody, they wouldn't have stood a chance. That was just our night.
Yeah, 100%.
We played exceptionally well. Like.
So that was another 4-0 and another midweek match, was it?
Yeah.
So that was 2 days off work then.
Yeah, it was, but there was a calamity leading up into that final, wasn't there, Gator? That was actually meant to be played.
Up at Lockall?
No, it was not meant to be played at Home Park. It was called off.
Yeah.
And then it was rescheduled. I ended up with another midweek game. But as Gator said, honestly, that was probably one of our all-round best performances that night. Even better than the Ballymacash game. The Ballymacash game overtook, it's to win the league. The league's the main thing, always is, but that night in the cup against Blackers Mill, the performances, some of the...
It was so enjoyable. Like,
yeah, and it was a summer's evening, and there was people lined right around the pitch, because Blackers Mill was a pretty big club, even back then as well. And the memories that night was outstanding. Some great pictures that night of the squad and things like that, which I'm sure you'll probably show and touch on. But Brilliant memories.
So Nigel, you were the captain on that Wednesday night at Brownstown Park where we lifted the league trophy for the first time in 25 years. So what did it mean for you as Hanover captain?
Meant a lot. I had been at Hanover from going to watch matches from I was a teenager. Played my first match when I was 15. In and out, really, you know, through Guffer and being at the youth club, and you were always sort of involved with Hanover. But when Gator came in, the first thing he done was made me captain. So I was, you could have said it was a dream, like, really, you know, and be captain of the team that won the league that year and went on to win the double was really unreal, like, you know. It was some feeling, you know, big crowds and everything else. It just meant a lot, you know.
What was some of the, can you remember any games really from that league campaign that you thought like we really have a chance to win it here?
Well, obviously the Warren Point match, the night we went up and beat them, that was sort of really knew them we were going to be hard to stop. And then the night that we actually beat Ballymacash to win the league, if we'd been playing anybody, nobody was stopping us that night. Like, you know, no matter who we would have played, we would have beat them. Just the way everybody felt, and, you know, everybody was really driven till win that night.
So the Bass Bowl as well, that was another midweek match that we won. So what's your memories of lifting the Bass Bowl?
The Bass Bowl, I think the first match was called off, wasn't it? It was postponed, which probably was a good job because the celebrations were still going on, you know, and the final was to be that week. It was a few days after it, so it was meant to be in Armagh, wasn't it? But torrential rain, so the match was called off. But it was arranged for Lagall on the Wednesday night after.
Something like that, yeah.
So we were just, I think we won that match 4-0, didn't we?
Yeah, nobody would have touched us.
Nobody would have touched us. It was just, it was a dream performance, like, you know, just to really cap off a fantastic season.
Who would have been some of the standout players of the season for you in that 2002 league winning team?
You could name anybody, but obviously Graham Little with the goals that he scored, you know, he was in my opinion, the best striker in the league. You know, he was brilliant. Defence was good. You know, defence conceded very few goals because no real fantastic footballers, like, but they had myself and Rudzo and Paul Corn, Scott Leggett, you know.
Animals.
Tough players that I would say most centre forwards and other teams wouldn't want to come up against, like.
Yeah.
So they conceded very few goals with the great goalkeeper and that's Andy Topley, like, so.
That's a very hard tackling back four you've named there.
It was, yeah, and we're all struggling with injuries now. If you were talking to anybody, you know, bad knees and bad backs, that's all to do with the way we played.
So some of the people that was brought in at the beginning of that next season then, you had Patsy Porter and Doc Murder from Loughgall, Yule Woolsey signed from BBO Boys and Gary Turkington signed from Tandragee. So how did it come about that you were able to add to the squad for the next season?
Well, I think it was just because we were so successful that first season winning the double that people had probably maybe watched the midweek match and seen what we had and just wanted to come. So nobody was turned away. But of all those players, like Yule Woolsey was a super player, very skillful, and like he was like a baby-faced assassin.
He was a
he was a tough wee player. You wouldn't have thought to look at him. But he scored a lot of goals too, like. So he probably came in for when Darren Devlin went to London. So he sort of fitted in perfectly. Patsy obviously had a great left foot, done well on the left-hand side. Did Scott Leggett retire after that first, or went to Kilgame Blues?
I think he...
And then how did we bring in a right
went
back?
to Kilgame.
Do you remember? Or did you play right back?
He could have played right back for a while after he went.
Yeah. So we just fitted in. It was another good season, I think.
But Patsy was like myself. Patsy would have been, me and Patsy run about together, but been at the East Club. Guffer was his uncle, so he was always at connection with Hanover. He was always going to come back sooner or later, you know.
There's photos of Patsy there too from sort of the late 80s as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
playing for
yeah.
Hanover, and then, you know, 15 years later he's back playing for us again.
Yeah, as I say, that connection, we would just grew up in the area, so
I think that season then, even though it strengthened and it was a decent season by all accounts, we'd been beaten in the league, you know, in the early parts of the season by Lower Vale, Sego, Blackers Mill and the Anna. So what do you think the reason that it just wasn't clicking, like we couldn't carry on that great form that we had from the year before?
And it could have been just maybe everybody said, well, we've done it. But you have to realise that you have to kick off and start again and go again. But once you've done the double and with such a, you know, the celebrations and stuff, you're bound to have a wee bit of a setback.
I think we hit the post a couple of times anyway. We were beating the Bass Bowl semi-final by Lower Vale, and we were beating the Premier Cup final 3-1 by Warren Point. Can you tell us anything about that?
Just disappointment. Warren Point were a good team. I think they beat us in 2 or 3 finals
they did, yeah,
in that era.
They definitely beat us in 2 that I can remember.
Yeah, and they were both at Lockall. But the crowds we were bringing to finals was unbelievable.
What I found the following year, after we had won the double, every match, like Hanover were never a really well-liked team, you know. But even after we had won the double, I noticed that every game was like a cup final, like, you know, everybody, no matter who you played, wanted to beat us. So everybody really stepped it up.
You seen the crowds that we seemed to get back then, especially for finals. Like, you can see some of the photos. Like, it seemed to be half the town was following Hanover back then.
Yeah.
Them occasions were brilliant to play in, like, because big crowds and big atmosphere, and it's what you played football for, really. Like, but in the Mid-Ulster, it was, in them days, you didn't really see it, like, you know.
No.
It was
we had to be the best supported club around.
Yeah.
Definitely, we could attract some fans. Like.
What was the buzz like around the club too, even around, you know, in the club that we're sitting in now?
Well, leading up to any final, you were buzzing. Getting in, winning the semi-final and knowing you're going to a final was a big buzz. And then going to the final and just trying to work it out and win it. Unfortunately, you can't win everything.
So after the disappointment then, we're beaten in the Premier Cup final, and we're also beaten the last day of the season to win the league, having to pick yourself up to go again then for the next season. So talk us through that then, the 2004-2005 season. Was there any highlights there?
Winning the Bass Bowl, beating Lord Vale in the final of the Bass Bowl 3-1, so another big occasion, like.
Another big crowd.
Yeah.
And winning this time is more enjoyable than getting beat in the last 2 finals. And I know Glenn McCullough played that match. I think he just signed halfway through the season. I made him coming to me and saying that, Gator, I didn't sign for Hanover to sit on the bench, here's me, but you have to wait your time, like, we're winning. But he did get his chance after about 3 matches and he stayed in. Good player, and I think that was his first goal for Hanover in the final. It was a cracking goal too, and I was happy for him. So I think I was talking to Keith Wilkinson, the Lord Vale, and we had organised the children to play at half time.
Right, yeah.
So we had all Hanover tops and Lord Vale tops. So they had like a kickabout at half time. Very family orientated final.
Yeah, they were mascots as well, because my young fella was mascot, Grass's young girl was mascot.
Yeah, my daughter was mascot.
All the children, so it was a good occasion.
There's some great photos from that day too of the crowd, and celebrating in the crowd, and people in fancy dress as well.
Yeah, that was another massive crowd and great occasion to be part of. And
So we went from a bit of a high then to a bit of a low again, personal low for yourself, Gator. So the next season we didn't really start off too well, and I suppose you parted ways with Hanover then as the manager.
Yeah, I don't think we had a good start. We played a lot of cup games. The league position, if you were looking at the league table, it wouldn't look too good. But we had a lot of games in hand. I was sort of thinking that we'd get up there again, but unfortunately, we had to part company, and that was it. Really, we had to part company. Devastated, sacked, raging. Gutted, heartbroken. But life goes on.
End of an era.
End of a good era.
Yeah.
Yeah, very successful here.
Yeah. Enjoyed every minute. And still friends and best friends with everybody that was involved in it. There was never any like fallouts or anything. It was just had to be done.
So, Neil, Hanover parted ways with Gator in the 2005-06 season, and then you came in as manager. So can you tell me how that came about?
Well, I was actually sitting in the house watching my beloved Liverpool, and I remember the game well. It was against Luton in the FA Cup, and I got a phone call from Scotty, so to see if I'd be interested in coming down, having a chat about taking over. And Hanover's always been very close to my heart, and my family as well. You know, down through years, different members of the family playing and stuff. And even when I was younger myself, I had a good friendship with Big Guffer. So I would have played a few games for Hanover as a young lad. In those days, you were able to play. I was a Portadown at the time, and you were able to play for Portadown and the Middlesbrough team. So I played for Portadown and also Hanover for a while. And it was at that time it was mainly down to Big Guffer. But when Scotty, when I got the phone call, you know, I would say I was a bit surprised. I'd done a bit of managing at the Anna, so I had, you know, and I hadn't done anything for a while. And but I wanted to come down and hear what the club had to say, and you know, I could tell them what my ideas were to try to bring the club forward. So I come down, I spoke to the committee, and everything's what we talked about, you know, what progression the club wanted to do, you know, where the next step for the club to go, you know, because obviously the manager, the Gator before, had a lot of success, so he did, you know, but as you know in football, you're only as good as, you know, really your last result. So I came down, spoke to the committee, and we agreed, and I took over, you know. So I already knew that the team had a good nucleus already. You know, we had people like Nigel McCartney, Barry Harrison, the two Woodsies, you know, who had been here for a while, Hanover men through and through, you know. So I knew the team were sitting close to the bottom of the league at the time, but I knew with myself coming in and adding a couple of new faces, you know, we could definitely get ourselves up the league. So when I come in, I told the committee what I would try to do with to move them up the table, and maybe get a wee run in a cup. You know, so in the first season, you know, I think we maybe went on a run where we won 10 matches in a row, and that pushed us up into the third or fourth in the table, and we also got to the Marshall Cup final.
So who were some of the first signings then you'd brought in?
Well, obviously when you come in at the start, you don't want to try to break a team up, you know, because as I said, there's good nucleus of a team, but I looked at areas straight away that I think could have been strengthened, you know, and I thought at the back we were sound. So we were maybe needed a more creative player in midfield and a wee bit more firepower up front. So that, so some of the first signings I would have brought in would have been Glenn Moffat, who had a lot of experience, Irish League experience. Keith Mercer, the same, Irish League experience, and Cliffy Sturt. You know, those three players, and they had. I already knew they had a lot of quality, obviously, because they played at a higher level. And I knew that's what I was looking for right from the start, you know. And then there was other players, the likes of Jim Wilson and Joel McConnell, who played a big part in the league winning team as well, you know.
You're Glenn as well.
Glenn McCullough as well, yeah. But we didn't need to bring loads of players in, you know. We only need to bring 4 or 5 in and strengthen the squad, because the nucleus of the squad was already there, you know. And at a club like Hanover, you don't want to be coming in and making wholesale changes and, you know, changing it too much, you know, because these lads know what it's like to play for the badge, and that's what I always found about Hanover. Once they put that shirt on, you know, it meant so much to them. So it did.
So Nigel, you were club captain then whenever Neil came in. Obviously you were friendly with Gator and you'd enjoyed success under Gator as well. So what did you think was the big changes then whenever Neil came in?
Just when a new manager comes in, it's a new bounce for the players, you know, different voice. And Neil was a lifelong friend of mine, so he came in, me and him spoke. He wanted to keep me on as captain. So I was always going to give 100% for Neil, you know. So there was no problem at all. Just training stepped up. You know, you could really notice different methods in training, and he demanded a lot. Like, so, as he said there, that's why we went on a 10 or 12 game run at the end of the season. We won 12 games in a row. Like, so that's what he would demanded, and the players stepped up for him. You know.
So whenever you've came in as manager then, Neil, you've got to the final of the Marshall Cup basically straight away in the second half of that season. Can you tell me anything about that final?
Well, it was a very close match that day. So it was, obviously there was a bit of, we were rivals with Lordville at the time because they were going well. So they were, you know, and it was probably between Hanover and Lordville, who's probably the best team in the town, you know. And I always remember it was a very close match, and it could have went anyway. So it could, you know, and I thought in extra time, probably we were the better team in extra time. We missed a couple of chances, so it did. And unfortunately, it went to penalties. And as you know, when it goes to penalties, there's only a lottery. So it is. But there's a lot of disappointment now. So there was. Because as what Nigel had said previous there, we went on an unbeaten run, and we wanted to carry that through, obviously, because it was a cup final. You know, but a lot of disappointment. But I think what it done, you know, it made the players see what could happen, you know, in the next couple of seasons, you know, and I think we really pushed on after that cup final, because I think sometimes in a cup final, when you lose a cup final, it gives you a wee bit more, you know, you want more of it, and you want to make sure the next time you get the cup final, you don't lose it.
Yeah. So then you get your next season then, that's your first full season, you've had a window and you've been able to make your own signings. So how did that season start then?
Well, what I done was I tried to bring a wee bit more professionalism to the club. I thought it was missing a bit, and again, no disrespect to Gator at all, you know. It was just the way I was brought up, you know. I had a fairly good Irish League career. We Ported down, won an Irish League Championship medal, so I did, and, you know, I got good habits from the likes of Ronnie McFall, so I did, you know, and Bob Nesbitt, he would have been the coach then, so I learnt a lot of good things off him. So, and the game was changing a wee bit then. You know, it wasn't just all run all the time. Obviously, in the pre-season, when the pre-season started, we had a real hard pre-season because I knew that players needed to be fit. But I would have mixed it up a lot, and we would have been working with the ball. So quite a lot, you know, running, but with the ball, you know. And we had a wee pre-season trip up to
Gosford.
The Gosford, yeah. And
remember it well.
we went to Tullymore Forest Park too, you know. But after doing the likes of Tullymore, we'd have went and played a match in the afternoon too somewhere, you know. And as anybody knows Hanover, you know, it's, you know, we're all together at Hanover, so we are. Everybody likes a good time, and that's what I tried to do, you know, make it a good time for the boys as well. But once we got the professionalism in it and the season started, you could see that it sort of went up a wee level from when I came in, and obviously the new signings had helped things. And I think one of the most important things is when you make new signings that they settle in very quickly. And I think the boys could see, you know, who had been here for a long time, the good club men, that these boys had settled in well and they mixed well with everybody. So they did. Yeah.
Who do you think were some of your standout players then from that season? Obviously that season you went on and won the league. So that 2006-2007 season, who do you think some of your standout players would have been? Well,
there's one thing I always learned as a manager: you don't pick one player or two players out. It was a collective, so it was. You know, it wouldn't be fair for me to say, you know, the reason Hanover won the league because I brought 3 or 4 new signings in, and what about the boys who had been here from the very start? You know, it was just the team bonding was so good. You know, those boys. Some of the matches when I went down to Brownstown, I had maybe had a team talk in my head so before the match, but I could go into that changing room and see they were busting to get out through them doors to win a football match for Hanover Football Club. You know.
Can you remember the night that you won the league? Who it was against?
Yeah, it was a strange night.
It was up in Cookstown.
It was the Middlestar Arena against Killymoon.
Yeah.
So it was, and it was a to and fro. You know, we were winning, then they were beating us 2-1, then we were drawn, then we were winning, and then it went.
It finished 4 up eventually, didn't it?
4 each. It ended up, so it did, and it was a bit strange because it's one of those times where you've won the league, but it's only on goal. You know, we had a big goal average as well, but we still needed a point officially. So it did, you know, and
we were waiting on a result coming in from somewhere else.
Waiting on a result coming in from somewhere else, yeah. But no, great celebrations, obviously, when we come back to the club and all, you know. I don't remember even getting home or what time I got home at, you know. But look, it was fantastic, so it was, you know, and it's something in my football journey that I'll always remember, and it's up there right at the top of the list, you know. But
you're looking back through the photos there, you're looking at that team that won that league, and there's some players in that team, like.
Funny, I was just having a chat with some of the boys there, and personally now, I think if that team was playing in the first division of the Irish League now, we would have a real good chance of winning it. You know, that was managed for quite a few years, but that was the best group of players that I ever managed.
Super.
So it was, you know.
So after winning the league then, going for another campaign, did you feel that you had to strengthen the squad further?
Yeah, but I didn't feel I had to strengthen it that much. So I didn't, I think we added a couple of players. We brought Johnny Walker in, and one thing about Johnny could play quite a few positions, so that's good for a team as well, you know. And it was funny looking back on the cup run, and we were struggling a wee bit in the league. Our form had dipped a bit, and I thought I needed to bring a bit of experience in, and I had a few good contacts actually down around Belfast. So I contacted them, and they said there was a fella, Ian Hamilton, and they asked him, did I know him? And I says, of course I done. Of course I do. He's played 500 Irish League games. So the semi-final was against St. Patrick at Brownstown. And I thought we were missing a wee bit up front because Cliffy Sturt had moved on. So he had. And I thought we needed somebody to give us that wee bit of something up front. Ian wasn't an out-and-out striker, but he had a good. He scored a few goals in the Irish League as well. So that day he came down. He had never met the players before. He hadn't trained, and he arrived at Brownstown. But again, as soon as he walks into the changing rooms, all the lads is over, you know, introducing themselves and all. So they make a new player feel at home straight away. So the game was very tight in the semi-final against St. Patrick. It was 1 each, and it was coming near the end. It looked as if it was going to go to extra time. And Ian Hamilton scored the winner for us, so he did. But I think Nigel would agree, you know, it was just the sort of signing we needed at that time to get us in a semi-final, maybe with his experience, you know, to get us till the final. Again, it's not about one player, but at that time, I felt we needed someone in, you know, who could help us get to that final, you know.
So we've maintained then, from you've come in as manager, we've maintained our good run of form. So we've been in the Marshall Cup final. We've then won the league, and the season after then, the run you're speaking about, that's in the Marshall Cup again, and we get to the final. So we end up winning that final. So can you remember anything about that, Nigel?
I remember being 1-0 down at half time, and we weren't actually playing that bad. I actually said to Neil at half time when we were going out the door, we're not going to lose this. You know, I was that confident, and Dean Walker came on and scored the winner, but who scored the first one?
I think Johnny Walker scored the first one.
Johnny scored the first one.
I think Johnny got the equaliser, yeah.
No, I was more unconfident because I said to him going out the door, you know, we're not going to lose this. You know, we're well in this. We're going to win this. So it was a tight game. Donnystown were strong as well. You know, they had some good, strong, experienced players, but I think Ian actually played centre midfield. Or,
he did, yeah.
You could really see his experience out there. You know, just dictating play. You know, just playing a holding role. He was very good. But another good day, another trophy.
Another trophy to maintain the good run.
Yeah.
And then more celebrations in the club after, and
well,
some good photos.
I actually think that night was probably even better in the league championship winning celebrations. You know, it went on for a long, long time. So it did. But like, that's what this football club's all about. You know, winning trophies, success, and everybody's in it together. You know, and that's what makes Hanover, I think, a very special football club. And it'll always hold a special place in my heart. You know, and for the chance that they give me as a young manager upcoming manager to come down here and work with the likes of Nigel and Barry Horst and Jason Woods, Stephen Woods. And as Nigel said, me and him were best friends, you know, but, you know, Nigel accepted that he was the manager then, you know, and we kept it professional, so we did. But I must say, in all my years of managing, Nigel McCartney would be the best captain that I ever had. You know, if things weren't going well, you know, I could always rely on him to make sure on the pitch that he done the business to get the team going again. And in the changing room sometimes, even I remember Nigel coming in, and I didn't mind this at all. At half time, if things weren't going well, Nigel maybe would have had the first word, you know, and I didn't mind that at all because I knew what Nigel was saying was there to help the team.
That's actually, that Marshall Cup win in 2008, that's the last time we actually won the Marshall Cup. We haven't been able to win it since. And talking about some of the celebrations in the club, there's a great photo of you and Scotty with the cup. Scotty, somebody that we've touched on here in the film before. So do you have any memories of Scotty or any memories?
His brown leather jacket, his BMW with a Hanover number plate, and so many stories. We could be here all night telling them.
Okay. Me and Scotty had a great friendship now. We had plenty of arguments. You know, obviously Scotty thought he knew more about football than me, but he didn't, you know. But we had a great friendship, and again, a great Hanover man who done so much work for this football club. Some people probably would never realise the work he done, you know, and, you know, he was out and he was getting sponsorship, and he was probably sponsoring a lot of things himself. A football club can't do it without people like that. But no, Scotty was a very special person, and
you would say an unsung hero, but he sung plenty of praise for himself, so he wasn't really unsung.
And he would be someone who I would still miss a lot.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and someone who was taken away from us too soon. You know, and but what I would say about Scotty, and in memory of Scotty, I would thank him for bringing me to Hanover Football Club that night when he made the phone call to me. And I said that night, you know, to myself, I'll do everything I can for this man to make this club a success. And hopefully I repay a wee bit back to Scotty.